I'm really glad that you decided to come to my session. It would be very awkward to speak to the empty room. But I'm also aware that this session isn't, this is going to be a very lightweight session. So if you're tired after all the great sessions, all the things that happened throughout the last 2 days, then this is a good choice. This will not be packed session. Yeah, I'm going to have one side to focus on. This is going to be very, very, very convenient. Thank you. So it will be very lightweight, and because we are such a small group, please do disturb me if you even disagree with me or something, or you have some more ideas, want to add on something, please do. It will be actually very beneficial. I was battling myself if I want to share this kind of insight before, but I found it quite interesting what happened to me during that little volunteering project. And I think it's worth listening. So just quickly, by show of hands, I do not ask. I asked you why did you come here, but how many of you actually have done some volunteering work in the past? One, most of you. Yes, perfect. And what about XP? How many of you actually work in the XP context or apply some XP practices? At least, okay. Know what XP is? Who knows what XP is? A couple of us. Okay, great, perfect. So at least half of them. So I asked you quite a few questions. I'm going to ask say a couple things about myself. I think those sentences are kind of nice distillation of who I am. They describe my personality quite well. So I often talk instead of doing, or even though I am a programmer by trade, I actually should code, but I'm talking far much more than doing things. So that's me. I see somebody relates to that. But then when I code instead of thinking. So when I actually start doing things, I tend to start writing too much and not thinking about the design and all the things well enough. I'm definitely too lazy to commute, hence I work remotely, but since half a year I'm commuting my daughter to nursery. So I got worst of the both worlds. I actually need to commute and then come back home to work. Which is great, which is really great. I work at a company called Guestline, which does hospitality business. We sell software for hotels, and we are having just fun conversation. This company is having a big change right now. So part of my role is to help facilitate that change in my team and make massive improvements to the way we are working. I'm the kind of person who have many ideas and not many of them get done. I guess I could relate with many people like that. There are many people who have a lot of ideas and not much get done. But sometimes the ideas I have take shape and I start doing things I'm thinking about. And this talk is basically a story about one of such ideas. When I received an email, or we are looking for a leader on the volunteering project, and they honestly thought that they were going to reject me. I applied there saying, okay, if there will be no leader, I prefer that there will be a team in my city than no team, so I'm going to apply just in case. But hopefully they will move me to the volunteer because I have no experience in that area. I'm absolutely well prepared for that. And to my despair, they accepted me. They chose me, and I landed that situation. So for those couple of people who don't know what XP is, just very brief, very distilled and brief introduction so that you can relate to the main topic of this conversation, which is comparing the volunteering work to the XP context. So XP is a software development methodology created in the 90s, and this is created by developers for developers. So it's very practical. It's very focused on the how to do things. Who was on the Alan Kelly's talk yesterday morning? It was first talk after the keynote. Nobody here. Alan Kelly is a great speaker. You should go to watch some of his talks on the YouTube. But he says that XP is absolute necessity when you do Scrum. So if you do Scrum, you absolutely must apply XP practices, otherwise Scrum will not work. And then author of Scrum also said recently that XP is agile done correctly. So even though it's very old, it still has a big hype. People still kind of love it, and it still has a big impact. So it's absolutely great idea to learn about it a little bit. I'm not going to go into that today. That's absolutely out of scope, but I highly encourage you to do that. So it was authored by Kent Beck. It's good to know him. He has a lot of good things to say, and his books are really good. I highly recommend them, especially XP Explained, which is the first one that introduces XP. The idea behind XP is that they took what was good practice at the time and took it to extreme. So they tried to do things that are working even more. The good example is pair programming. They introduced an idea of pair programming because they knew that when two people read the same code, when there's code reviewed, it decreases the number of bugs in production. So they said, okay, if two people reading the same code after some period of time helps, how can we make it more? Let's make them read the code line by line. One is created all the time. So let's make two people sit in front of the same computer for all the time, and that's how the pairing came to life. We are 23 years later now, so the landscape changed a little bit more. There was amazing talk 2 years ago or 3 years ago here, I think in this room, on Agile on the Beach, when people said, introduced how XP works in the current environment, and one of the ideas they had was that the mobbing is an extension of pair programming, really. Pair programming is just two people, and mobbing, that's what Woody Zully said this morning. He tried pairing first, and then he moved into mob programming. So the things that were extreme 20 years ago are not so extreme anymore. And this is why the extreme programming is so important. They introduced things that were very extreme and very progressive at the time, but now they are all considered good practices. They are considered things that people just do. Test-driven development, continuous integration, weekly planning sessions, all those things were being kind of triggering things at the past. So it's good to know this piece of history because it's still relevant, not because it's a history. And I'm speaking very fast, and they shouldn't be speaking very fast because we're going to finish in 15 minutes then, which isn't that bad. There's one more thing that really matters. Extreme programming, when it's introduced, especially in the book, it's starting with values. So why do we things and who we are? Then principles, what are our goals? What do we want to achieve? And only then it moves into practices, what to actually do. So like value is delivery of software on time. The principle is a short feedback loop, and the practice is test-driven development for that. So until we get to practice, we know what we want to achieve and why we're doing it. And this is the first thing I see as a correlation, kind of similar thing to the volunteering project I was part of. It's called the Noble Box. I'm going to tell you more about it in a second. But the interesting thing about this particular volunteering project, which is well established and having a good successes in my home country, is that they also start with the value. Their main value is to help wisely. They want to help wisely. They want the help to be wise. And then I'm putting that in the right direction. Yes, I think I am. And then they said, secondly, that everybody is important and everybody needs to be heard out. And then finally, the practices that the questionnaires and when we go to the particular families to talk about them, there are questions that reflect that. There are not only questions about your problems, but there are also questions about what are your strength parts, what are the things that you do well, things that are trying to build up those people and say, like, you are actually valuable. We're not just going to come here and be charitable to you and help you. You are yourself valuable people. And this is like the first thing I see as a kind of relation between those two things. Okay, so going into the Noble Box itself. Actually, I need to ask you a question. You work in the XP setting, don't you? Sorry? You work in the XP setting yourself, don't you? Yeah. Kind of. Was that good introduction to XP enough? Or would you add something?
No,
that's enough. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, so the Noble Box. It was started 2001, so already 17 years, quite long journey behind this project. I heard about it 5 years ago, more or less. I joined it last year. That was my first time I was part of that project. And the main thing that is visible outside is that it helps families, giving them quite a big gift, hence the name, the Noble Box. During Christmas time, it's like 2 weeks before Christmas. It happens every year, more or less, but it doesn't go to the same families every year. It happens every year at the same time. And it's not that the organization gives that, organization facilitates that. The actual gift is given by donors, people who are involved in there, and volunteers are helping to make this happen. So as I said, the principle is the value is to help wisely that's what they are trying to achieve. And the story being told by the founder of it is that he was giving some pennies to begging people on the rail station. And he was doing that for the whole year. And after a year, some conclusion came to his mind that he's seeing the same faces, the same people over and over again. So he isn't really helping them. He's probably keeping them in the same situation over and over again. So this is not a wise help. This is not what brings people benefit. So maybe he should stop doing this and focus on something else. I don't want to jump into the philosophical whole big thing because there are all many people also criticizing that idea, and there's a lot to the being poor, much more than the story is about. But this is the story being told in that organization, and this is kind of what is guiding people in. Have you watched seen the very short movie, The Butterfly Circus, with Nick Vujicic? You've seen that one. Okay, if not, then take note. This is 10 minutes or 20 minutes film. If maybe I will actually start speaking quickly and we will watch it. It's very good short film with Nick Vujicic. Nick Vujicic is a person who was born without his hands and without his legs. He's a public motivation speaker, very good. And this film is kind of one that is being watched in the Noble box all the time, all the trainings. You can basically get bored of watching that movie. But it's showing the progress and the change of the person from being dispowered, not having the motivation and being lost, into finding their own value despite their challenges. And that's what we are trying to achieve here, trying to help people wisely. One more anecdote about helping wisely. There's a saying that you shouldn't give people a fish, you should give them a fishing gear so they can get it themselves. Who agrees with that? Here, a couple people. So the Noble box is saying that this is wrong. This is wrong, because the fishing gear, you're already making it too easy. Fishing gear can be taken and sold. It's what you are supposed to do with it. Teach people how to fish. Fishing gear can be made. It's a stick and the rope, really, and something at the end. It's not that hard to get it. Actually, give people motivation to move out of their situation. It's not enough to give. Your gift must be thought through so that they can do something with it. So that they are trying to push the boundaries in that area. And one thing I'm not going to be mentioning that much is that the boxes is the most visible and most spectacular part that's happening, but that's not all that this organization does. They are actually trying to reach out with health help, with lawmakers help, and so on. So they are not limiting their help into this one gift situation. They are trying to explore options how to help people more. But because of the time constraints and because of the bit I was involved in, I'm going to focus on only one area. Yes, okay, so basically it works in such a way that the volunteering team is going to look out for the families in need. We're going to screen them, make sure that they are actually the families that match criteria, which is basically that they have actual problem. They are not lying about that there is actual financial problem, that the family is willing to take a fight. They are not saying, okay, I give up completely. They are willing to make some kind of improvement in their life. And such family is being then added into the database. They are well described, but they are anonymous. We don't give their name, details about address, etc. But we do a lot of details about their situation, who they are, what happened to them, and what is their need. So you can really relate to that family when you're seeing that. And then in that database, the donors are looking through that, and they're choosing themselves the family they want to help. Funny enough, in more rich regions, which I'm coming from, the families in need are disappearing from the database in a matter of hours. So basically, the database becomes open, and the list goes down to zero in a matter of hours, which is really, really good. But that also means, so that's more or less how it works. And then that donor is preparing the Noble box, which isn't really one box. I'm going to show you some photos in a second. There's multiple boxes, a lot of things. Usually one thing that is big, like new heating, new fridge, something that's actually going to make improvement to their day-to-day life. Some regular support of sort of food and clothes that's going to help them in the short term to change their life a little bit. And then something very personal, something that's going to be actual gift for a person, like a book, a CD, something that's going to make you happier, put a smile on your face. All three are very important. None can be neglected, but as you can imagine, a single family cannot provide such a big gift. It's not easy for me to go and buy a fridge for somebody. I'm not that rich. Maybe no, I'm very rich, but in different sense. So average number of people who prepare one box is around 35 people. So people gather around doing that, multiple families, schools, workplaces, and they need to organize themselves to deliver that. And that's another way that the help becomes wiser, because it's not only the family who is receiving the box that get the benefit, but also people who organize this. They become a little hubs of the community, getting people around and saying like, please, let's help together, let's do it together. And this is not anonymous, give me like whatever, just some food or something. There's this family in need with children that cannot hear, and we would like to get them some books. There were parents that cannot hear, and there are children who actually could hear, but there was nobody to read books to them. So we're trying to gather as many books that can be auto-read or read by the baton and so on. So we knew something about this family, and we're trying to put a present that's going to actually change their situation and be relevant to them, not some random things. And last information is that the Noble Box is like a corporation. It really is like a corporation, extremely hierarchical, a lot of training, a lot of not maybe command and control, but standards and a lot of reporting and checking the value, which is why I joined it. I joined it exactly for that reason. I used to do volunteering before, but it was very much lightweight, very much heart-driven. Oh yes, let's help that person. Let's do it. Let's go. Here, they are extremely obsessive about standards, about making the help very valuable and making it the best possible. They expanded across the whole country, but it's coming from Krakow. But the headquarters is still trying to ensure that the quality is same level and same style, and with the same motivation. Hello. Sorry. Same motivation across the whole country. It has also added benefit that young people, I mean, that didn't help me so much. I worked in the corpo before, so I was kind of used to that. I just wanted to see how the corpo works in the volunteering team when nobody has time. But for young people, it actually gives them kind of work experience and the motivation, and they know now how to navigate the politics and the way of working in the corporation. I mean, in a regular corporation, when you start, you're starting very low, and it's not easy to jump very quickly up. Whereas in the volunteering organization, we are constantly lacking a new talent because we are not paying people. So it's much easier to go up higher. That's part of the reason why I was chosen as a teammate, not because I was qualified. It's just I happened to be one of very few applicants. In there. But for young people with especially little experience, my boss was, I think, 20 years old. That was my boss in this organization because it was his third time he was in this project. And he was doing a brilliant job. His age had nothing to do with it. He was absolutely brilliant manager of multiple teams. Because he had enough experience, he had a good training and that thing. And his motivation and his skills in that were absolutely impressive. And I was actually talking with him a lot about that, and his way of looking for a job and applying for a job was very, very different. He already knew his value, he already knew how he can achieve things. So when he came into the interview process, he was able to say, yes, I led the team of 55 people over a 6-month-long project, and that's what he delivered. That's how it worked out. He had some experience, he had some confidence. So it was really good in that sense, and I'm really happy I could see that happening. I'm definitely coming back again, and definitely not a leader. I'm going down. I want to be demoted. I want to be demoted, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to want to be demoted as well. So I want to tell you a bit about who we are. So we were a distributed team of 18 people. Why I say distributed? We all lived in the same town, but because this is a volunteering project, we didn't have a full working experience of 8 hours together. We didn't meet for that time. We had all our own schedules, all our own families, our own duties, and having the same period of time available together wasn't part of the screening process. So we had to work as a distributed team. Phone, Slack, sorry, not Slack, we didn't have Slack, we had Facebook. Phone, Facebook, and email were our primary means of communication. and it felt as an extreme distributed team. No single two people were in the same location. We were of very different trades. We had people who were pharmacists, housewives, IT support, students, and we're looking at faces now, teachers, and nursery teachers as well. So plenty of different trades. People, only two people had the IT kind of relationship. One person was in the kind of IT support. I have programming background, as I said. No technically savvy people at all. And we had many ad hoc volunteers, so people who kind of came in for the last final day, which was a huge logistic strain for us, and that required a lot of people to help us actually physically carry the packages from place to place. So we had many ad hoc volunteers helping us, and then I still consider part of 40 families that we actually included during that period of time. And I know the 40 doesn't look so big, but it's a massive number if you need to go to each of those families 5 times. It's a lot of work to get those people and have a meaningful conversation and actually engage with that people. And that are only 40 only families we accepted into the project. We visited over 80 of those families. So this was a massive undertaking for us. Where? So you ask where I am before here. That's where I live, and this is where we were. This is exactly in the middle between Berlin and Warsaw. This is a quite small town of Swarzędz, 31,000 people. So it's not that big. It's really a habitat for nearby city of Poznań. You probably don't know the Poznań either. Though you might know the phrase of "to do Poznań," if you are a soccer fan. No? Okay. There's kind of a soccer fans move. It's called "do Poznań." And it's famous for carpentry, so it's a nice place to be. It's kind of quiet, small town in the middle of Poland, and that's where we operated. That was our area. My team was responsible for that particular town and all the villages around that area. So that was our responsibility. There were the teams all around us. There were teams in the city of Poznań. There were teams in other towns around, and there was kind of this spread. We were dealing in that one area. And so it took us around 6 months. The project really takes the whole year, but the part I was involved with is 6 months, so this is going to be my most focus. The project starts with recruitment. First there's leader recruited, and he's trained or she's trained. Then there starts a team building, so every team member is interviewed, and they can be accepted or rejected. Many people feel very almost offended with that when you meet with them for the first time. You talk for 40 minutes and then you say, yeah, let's have a call tomorrow after we sleep over this, and I want to hear your decision. I'm going to tell you my decision. And they're like, I just said I'm going to give you some of my time. I'm giving you something, and you're saying that you might not accept me. And like, yes, that's how it is. This was interview. It was actually, we were talking about things, about your values. If you all participate in interviews, often in the tech companies, we have technical interview and the cultural interview. That's kind of a standard I've seen in multiple companies. So this one is more of a cultural interview. We check the values, we check the motivation, we check why people want to be there, what they are trying to achieve. One of the important things is that they have something to benefit from being a volunteer. If they're just there to help, it might not be enough motivation to go through the kind of strained process. If you are kind of going to get something out of it, it's actually a good sign. You're going to benefit in this. So everybody is being screened. I actually had to say once no only, by the way. And that was the person that was very hard to schedule the interview meeting with. And after 3 or 5 calls where we couldn't get in touch at all, the person wasn't calling back when they said they would. It was like, okay, you're not responsible enough to be able to come with us, and we just cannot let you go to families, say something, and then don't come back, don't follow up. That's too risky. But except for that, really we are accepting everybody because we need many people, and people who are already willing to help others probably have most of the characteristics that are needed. So we recruit the team and we build the team. There are some team building exercises, and then we look for the families. So we are going all to the all people in the area who can know such a families, to the local charity centers, to schools, to shops, to the local people, and are asking, do you know somebody who needs help? because one of the rules in the project is that the family cannot join into the project. They cannot say, please help me. We are in need, please help me. No, that's forbidden. Somebody else needs to come in and say that they are in need, please help them. This is to move out all the people who are actually looking for cheap help from somebody. It's kind of like a first filter for us. Then there's the biggest part, which is screening of the families, and I call it screening, which is really false. This is meetings with the families. This is actually engaging into those families. We ask a lot of personal questions, a lot of deep questions about what is your motivation for life, where are you, what happened to you that you're in the current situation, but also how did you try to work out where you are, and then what you need. Actually, we're not coming in and saying that's what you need, you're going to get it. We're asking what do you need, how can we help you, what could help you. This sounds great, and it absolutely isn't. I'm so sorry, somebody decided to call me exactly in the middle of the call. And sometimes it isn't, because you see sick people tied to their bed and you're supposed to ask them, how can you help yourself? And it sounds very, very tough, except in some ways it is also motivating for them. It's kind of saying, okay, you are equal human being and you can have some independent action to help yourself. And often it's not easy. Sometimes it might be just being happy person, or being a smile, or being grateful for that. So sometimes it is just that. But often it is, can you actually start looking for a job? Did you try online job? Did you try this? Did you try that? There was one person who told me that they cannot have a job. And after me doing some Googling and checking actually what the law means, it sounded that she misunderstood what was her lawful situation. And she was allowed to have a job in our country and carry on. So it was very nice achievement, is that we gave her obviously a box and all the things she asked for, but really what happened is that during the finals she already had a job. She was in a different situation, because even basic job actually improved her financial situation such that she wouldn't need the help anymore. And she was in this whole bubble that she believed that if she starts doing the job, she will lose all the benefits that are keeping her alive, and she wasn't willing to risk that because of the health status. And then when she realized, oh, I can go to the job and risk nothing, she was immediately out of the problem. So this deeper understanding and getting in touch did help out. Then we deliver a box. So there is a meeting when we bring all these things in. They are opened in our presence. So when the volunteer comes in, they actually sit down, open all these things, look at them, evaluate, like, do they like it, they don't like it. We make photos. We write a thank you note to the donor. So it's not just here you are, that's your box, see you later. We actually do spend a lot of time together, and then there's a follow-up. So one is actually 2 months after the box is given, and the one is even further down the line, to see if the family's situation changed. Is there something different? The important bit, I guess, is family is not only a group of people, it can be a single person as well. By family, we mean people who live together, really. That is a family. So old people living alone were kind of big chunk for us as well. So I said that single box, that's the noble box, right? All the things here on this photo, I mean, from here to more or less here, that's a single gift. That's how big it is. That's how much they receive. This is supposed to make an impact. That is, I would say this is more or less average plus. Like the regular one is more or less up to here. This is plus size. So they do receive a lot of things regularly. This is not working every time, but that's what it's intended to be. That's supposed to be a kind of a life-changing moment, to feel that somebody do cares about you and somebody is going to give you that. And help and question something? No.
Question.
Sure.
To understand how it works. So every project is 6 months. You recruit the volunteers.
Yeah.
After the 6 months, the volunteers are gone, or are they going into another project?
August we recruit them. December is the final when we deliver boxes. January, February there is a first follow-up visit. Around March there's kind of a wrap up where they kind of we almost like a retrospective style, more like a 360s. You write what you think about your leader, what you think about your colleagues, what you think about your subordinates, and so on. I just received the confirmation of my participation 2 weeks ago, I think, on my email or something like that. So they said like, okay, this was your role, this is what you did, this is your kind of work experience, and I believe they should be starting to recruit right now. So in like month, 2 months, they're gonna start recruiting again.
So actually, if you want to do the next round, you have to apply again. The fact that you have already worked with them.
Yes and no. So volunteers that were part of the team in the last year are automatically accepted to the team for the next year. So you don't need to be screened again. This is one thing that the team leader doesn't have influence on. If the previous team leader accepted somebody, you get those people for free, to say so. And I'm actually gonna call up everybody from my previous team and make sure they join next year, or kind of try to convince them to join next year. Even though I will not be leading that, I want to try to keep the team intact. I'm not leader anymore there. I'm gonna tell you something about sustainable pace later on. But I burned out myself around December last year. We had also some family issues, and I had to say like, sorry, I cannot do that job anymore. And somebody stepped into my role. So at that point, I lost a little bit of contact with what's happening with this thing. I believe that the current leader, that the guy who stepped up in my place, will be the leader next year. So I think there's kind of continuity if you want it. But also what is encouraged is change your goals. So person who was volunteer will be asked to be reviewing the submissions next year, or be part of the marketing team, or be part of the sponsor relationship team. The people are kind of changing their roles and getting different work experience, so they can broaden the horizons and get the new stuff done. And there's a bunch of people who are just kind of like to be volunteers, and they stay in that role year after year because this is something that drives them. They enjoy being in that position. That's what I want to be this year. I kind of enjoy the whole process. I want to be there. I cannot be as involved as in the previous year. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's many things together. So let's start one by one. Okay. I don't remember exact stats right now, so I'm gonna make it up a little bit. There are exact facts on the website. I could dig it out for you after the talk. I'm happy to go on the website and check it. But out of the rules, how submissions were evaluated, because I was involved into that. I think like, and this you will need to translate it. I'm gonna give you two numbers. One in Polish, actually in pounds, but what is actual value, and then I'm gonna translate it towards the average salary in Poland, so that you have an impression how it goes with the average salary in UK. You work in UK, I assume. Okay, so that I'm trying to give you that. So the big gift is around £300, more or less. That's the big thing that you more or less receive. In that, sometimes it is laptop, sometimes it is fridge. It might not be even here. Often those big ones we already delivered straight to the house, because there's no point in the delivery to on our stock, so that we can deliver it further. We just deliver it straight very often. So it's around £300, which is more or less average salary. It's actually the minimum salary in Poland. So it's like half of the average salary, monthly salary in Poland. So that's one. Then you get clothes and food, and that varies very much. People, like, depending on the packet, this can be the same or half of it, more or less. That's how it goes. It also varies for the family. If you have a family of 4 or 5, obviously that part will be much bigger than if you have a single person living alone, because they do need less. So let's say double it, and then what? And the special gift is not expensive. It's really like something like 10-20 pounds worth, sometimes 30. It's not very expensive, but it's very aimed towards the person. Having said that, the averages don't tell the true story because spread is quite big. I've seen packages that were 3 times as much, and I've seen some that were only £100. Yes, 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 yes. And this is a mistake. Like this is a volunteer fault if you get actually a package that is too small, because you didn't get a good contact with donor. You didn't explain to them that they are supposed to be a hub that organizes the people. Some people kind of come in and say, okay, I'm going to do it on my own, but I'm going to just do what I can. That's not exactly fair, because there are so many other donors who would organize a big group around it, and hence you're taking away opportunity for that people to receive something like that. And this is a volunteer job to explain that. Does it help? And about the time, you also asked about the time of the volunteers. So there's first meeting like hour long, more or less. There's second meeting, which is probably the same. Third meeting, again, delivering that, which is going to be, they basically spend the whole weekend together. We said this weekend for the Noble Box, and we spend that weekend together, and that time we are supposed to deliver everything. Plus they will spend time sometimes when there's direct delivery. The volunteer must be every time when something is delivered, because they need to see quality, they need to see what is there. They're very strict on the legal side of it to make sure that there's no dispute about that. Plus that, and then 2 more visits later on. And again, spread is quite significant, because sometimes volunteers form a friendship relationship with the families, and then they're going to spend much more time. And then there are people like myself who burned out, and then they don't do follow-up, and that will put down the things. Good questions. If you have more, then let me know. Again, this is a van. We put the things into the van. This is a funny story. Those packages, as you can see, are quite big. It's quite hard to put them in the personal car and deliver them. It would take a lot of effort. We needed vans. We had one delivery company helping us, but one van is not enough for 1 weekend, 40 families to deliver those things. Take into consideration that when you deliver, it's just not that, here you go, we sit down, have a coffee, actually talk. So we were looking for a second van to be able to get better mobility, and we found a company that kind of offered us a van. And on the morning of the Saturday, the final day, the guy showed up, gave me a keys, gave me documents, gave me a card for a fuel, and said, like, here you go, this is a van. My boss told me that you're supposed to have it. Like, I didn't drive a van yet. Can you show me at least basics how you can drive it? And it was absolutely amazing to me. Like the people, 5 minutes. Really? That's the presentation now starting. Oh dear. I'm so sorry. I destroyed the presentation. I was sure I have so much time. I destroyed it. No, it was good. It was good. All right, I'm gonna go quite quickly about those things, so that you at least have a snippet of what I wanted to give you here. This is the core. There are some practices I found that were introduced by the Noble Box itself. So I came in and I thought, okay, I'm going to do it XP way. So I'm going to do this, and this. And then I was like, oh no, they already do that. So pairing, no question. We are going to the stranger's house. There are women, and we don't know who those people are. We are not going there alone ever. So pairing was very strong impact. And whenever people were not pairing, that was very visible in the reports, in the way they contacted leader afterwards. The impact of pairing over there was massive. Becky Shaw said one of the morning sessions here that she was doing pairing in the PMing, and I agree with her. Pairing in many ways of life is helping a lot. Sustainable pace, I already told you about. Some people took too many families in hope. Yes, let's help as many as we can, but that decreased the quality of help significantly. You cannot form meaningful relationship with too many people. You cannot do the good follow-up with that. So again, all the things I knew about the computer software delivery, if you strain yourself, you're going to decrease quality, and innovation, exactly the same thing happened. Yeah, how fast I can go if I need to. Quarterly cycle. So yeah, there was a quarterly cycle. It's not exactly always quarter. There were big milestones, but mostly in the quarters, like starting of the project is first one. Then there's a March or kind of an event for the opening of the database to make a big splash and say like, yeah, we are opening database. See the families in need. And then there's a final after around a month later, and then there's a big banquet. Obviously, volunteers need to pay for themselves, but there's a big banquet to wrap it up 3 months later. So what I learned here in this quarterly cycle really is that they really celebrated each of those quarters. For me, often the quarter was just a kind of OKR, let's sit down and have a goal for this. Here it was actually celebrated. We meet together, we did something fun and something meaningful, and it was pretty good. And the meetings we had, those when we visited families, had a very extensive questionnaires, and we had a lot of training about those questionnaires. And it did feel like also test-driven meeting. There was already tests what you will need to have out as the result of your meeting. You came into the meeting and you know what you need to achieve during that meeting. It was very test-driven, and if you failed, because sometimes people did fail, there was kind of reporting afterwards. There was a follow-up meeting, so you kind of could almost rerun it. On the second, if you failed to do something on the first meeting, you had still second meeting to rerun and get the missing information in. And it worked extremely well. Like people actually did find out enough about those families because they were well prepared into that. Okay, moving on. There are a couple of things that I introduced into this team, and they kind of some of them did work. Whole team approach worked very, very well. Everybody was doing everything. There was no separation of roles. That okay, only leader is gonna screen people. I actually tried to delegate screening of the new candidates to other people. I was explicitly forbidden, but I still involved other people to help me out with this. So it was pretty good. But obtaining the family database in many teams, it was done only by a leader. In our case, in our situation, it wasn't at all. Marketing, again, we were delegating everything that we could, and we were not even saying you do that, you do that, you do that. We were just having a digest of things to be done, and people were kind of like, okay, I want to do it. I'm going to do that. To the point that the place for the final. My team members came to me and said, like, we have a place for the final. I was like, oh, already? You've organized it. Great. Thank you. So I wasn't even aware of all the things that were happening. They're picking up the tasks. This is needed to be done. Let's move on. So this worked very well. I don't have time, but there were some nice, if you have time, catch me about this one. There were some nice learnings, things that didn't work well in that area as well. Which led to the problem that we had a massive communication problem, both with overload the communication, but also miscommunication. People, I have to say that. People challenged me that I'm reporting back as my achievements, things that the team did. Because my role as a team lead was to report up what's happening, and I'm saying the team obtained that many families. And there were actually particular people, like Anna, who did go somewhere and obtained 3/4 of that families. And they were like, you're saying that you did it, whereas it's something that I did. Like, okay, I don't care. I mean, it's great that you did it. I love you for doing that. But this is something we achieved as a whole team to be reported up. It doesn't matter for yourself. And having these all good conversations happened when I started to have a weekly meeting. On every Tuesday evening, I said, I'm available. How much time do we have? 2 minutes? 1 minute? Okay. When we had a weekly meeting, I was in one pub, always available on that evening, 2 to 4 hours. Come have a chat with me. We're gonna do some valuable work at that time. And this changed the whole perception a lot. This gave me opportunity to have a private chat with those people, ask them about their personal life, ask them about their opinions, and also they knew that I'm gonna co-op them during that period of time. So it also helped me to organize my own life. I wasn't disrupted so much by people during my work day and during work week. There was Tuesday afternoon, they knew that's when I'm available, that's when you can reach out. So this kind of established to me how important it is to see your distributed team. I'm doing that every 2 months, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, I need to do it as much as I can, and it's actually valuable. The information overload, something we started on. So the weekly digest was what helped the most. So every this Tuesday, we started doing planning, what we're going to do till next Tuesday. And then we sent a weekly digest to everybody. That's what we are planning to do. That's what we achieved. That's where we are. And this organized amount of communication a lot, because people were overloaded with the communication, because everybody was working in different time zones or different places and the days. And it resulted in us constantly checking Facebook, like, okay, new message, new message, new message, new message, new message. And at some point, nobody was looking at them anymore because there were too many of them. Whereas for the weekly one, we put the most important information at the top, the least important at the bottom. If you get halfway through, the list of information was pretty good, and also a lot of information wasn't valuable anymore once the whole week passed. So it was kind of good to have this kind of weekly planning. And I tried very much to do stand-ups, kind of reporting more often, didn't work at all. And this sense of the team not working together, no way. I tried multiple times, fun questions, let's get to know together. No, nothing. Didn't work. Lessons learned, that one I said is possible to overload. So design your information that you're passing. Think how you're passing over information. Don't just kind of write to people, hey this, hey this, hey this, hey this, hey this. Think what do you want to pass and what is important. That's something I learned for myself. It's not about the tools, it's about the practices. So I hate Facebook. I absolutely do detest it. It was the best tool ever for the job. It absolutely was. And you can probably know why. Face-to-face time, massive change, all the gossiping, all the talking about each other in the bad way went away immediately once we started meeting. Until that, there was a lot of pressure. And last really big feedback is there were two things that I noticed. One thing was the TDD meetings, when there was a good spreadsheet, but it required an extensive whole day training to understand how to manage that tests and how to do this meeting. And people had a big anxiety to use that. They didn't want to fill in those forms. They were calling me up. How I'm supposed to do this report is so complicated. It doesn't work. The system doesn't work for me. How am I supposed to do that? We're often like, okay, come here, let's meet, sit down. That's how you do it. That's how it works. That's all right. We're going to do it. So people often didn't engage as well. So they were not calling me up, but they didn't do the work. And I was calling them up, like, what's happening? Oh, I don't know how to do it. Okay, let's deal with it. So the heavy process led to lack of engagement and need for training, but it had very consistent results once we had the training and once people were comfortable with the process. It had very consistent and good quality results. There was other part, which is calling up actual donors. After they signed up, you're supposed to call them up, say, hello, that's me, I'm a volunteer, I'm going to help you. And that's how you are supposed to do the box, and let's work together. This one had very high level training only, saying like, okay, you are supposed to call up, this is an example, that's what you do, that's what you're supposed to ask. But there wasn't a big spreadsheet, there wasn't a big reporting in there, it was kind of more like, okay, yes, I called, that's all. In that bit, we all made, not only me, but many volunteers, multiple mistakes. We didn't tell crucial information to the donors. One of the crucial information is don't give any used clothes. Used clothes don't work in this setting. They actually undermine. You can have the best novel box and give some used clothes, and this will feel like you're giving trash to people. They often don't match. They don't look great. This is kind of destroying the whole experience. We didn't knew that. We are lacking this kind of explicit guideline. And hence we made the same mistakes over and over again. Now, after a year being there, I know how to do this call very well. I have experience, I know what to look for, I know what are the things that are important. So the lightweight process leads to improvisation and interpretation, so it's not very consistent, it gets different flavors, and it requires some sort of experience. I think that this is one of the challenges with the Agile. You've got Scrum, which requires training and is kind of very prescriptive and says like do this, but it kind of creates an anxiety, yeah, we're finishing, versus Kanban, right, which can be very different. That's it. Thank you very much.